have you ever heard of the theory of spontaneous human combustion? In essence, it is a pseudoscientific term for a person whose body burns without an apparent external ignition source. In reality, these cases are explained by something called the wick effect, where an external flame ignites the victim's clothing, which then soaks up their body fat and acts as a candle, slowly burning them while doing minimal damage to everything else around them. Of course, this is also merely a hypothesis, so don't take it as gospel. It just seems to be the most accepted reasoning to date. Although personally, my favorite hypothesis comes from Michael Harrison's 1976 book, Fire from Heaven, which is not only a metal as hell title, but suggests that the act is actually connected to, and I'm not making this up, poltergeist activity because, as he states, the force which activates the poltergeist originates in and is supplied by a human being. He then goes on to surmise that, quote, spontaneous human combustion, fatal or non-fatal, belongs to the extensive range of poltergeist activity. And man, I just have to respect a guy willing to be that out there in their beliefs. Why do people spontaneously explode? Gotta be ghosts, obviously. Bravo to you, sir. You're an individual. But the irony is that, well, spontaneous combustion does actually occur. Just, not in people. It actually occurs in whales. I'm Bang, and this is Brain Soup. On January 29th, 2004, in Tainan City, Taiwan, a whale died after beaching on the southwestern coast of Taiwan. The common agreement on its cause of death was that it had likely been struck by a large shipping vessel, damaging its spine and weakening the area. According to Taiwan News, a large crowd of more than 600 local Yunlin residents and curiosity seekers, along with vendors selling snack food and hot drinks, braved the cold temperature and chilly wind to watch the workmen try to haul away the dead marine leviathan. However, unexpected by everyone, the whale, while on the back of a truck near the center of Tainan, exploded, splattering blood and entrails over surrounding shop fronts, bystanders, and vehicles. Honestly, if it wasn't so gruesome, it'd be hilarious. The cause of this explosion was actually a result from the buildup of gas inside the corpse, which had caused it to burst, though admittedly the cause of the phenomenon was initially unknown since it occurred in the spinal area of the whale and not in the abdomen, as one might have expected. But this is one of, if not the only instance, of a whale exploding by itself. And even then, only because it had died. Most whale explosions, which, now that I'm saying it, is a bizarre three-word sentence in and of itself, are done by man and date back as far as 1928, when entrepreneurs Harold L. Engfinger and MC Hutton, who I regret to inform you is not a DJ, accidentally exploded a whale carcass they were attempting to preserve for a sideshow, when the embalmer they had hired badly misjudged the balance of salted formaldehyde necessary to preserve the specimen. I also have to take note of the phrasing accidentally exploded because, and let's be honest, how often does it happen with intent? Well, it turns out more often than accidentally. In fact, basically every whale explosion is done on purpose. And while there are numerous examples to pull from, such as in June 2005 when Iceland allowed a whale carcass adrift in one of their harbors to be split in two by a controlled explosion, or in 2010 near the Western Australian city of Albany when the Department of Environment and Conservation used explosives to kill a stranded whale after it had repositioned itself on a sandbar. Perhaps the most famous example is the one that occurred on the shore of Florence on the Central Orient coast on November 9, 1970. See, a 45-foot-long sperm whale washed ashore, and since at that time Oregon beaches were, for some reason that I've never understood, under the jurisdiction of the state's highway division, they consulted with the United States Navy and decided to remove the whale using dynamite, assuming that the resulting pieces would be small enough for scavenger animals to consume. George Thornton, the engineer in charge of the whole thing, told an interviewer that he wasn't actually certain just how much dynamite he would need and stated that he'd really only been chosen for this because his supervisor had gone hunting. In the end, 1/2 short ton of dynamite was selected, but a military veteran with explosive training who just happened to be in the area at that time warned that the planned 20 cases was far too much and that a mere 20 sticks would have done the job. His advice went ignored. You might be able to tell by now that great decisions were made all around during this operation. The dynamite was detonated on November 12th at 3:45 p.m. and was reported by cameraman Doug Brazil, which is a great name, for news reporter Paul Lindman of KATU TV in Portland. The explosion was so massive, as the veteran had predicted, that as a result, large pieces of blubber landed near buildings and in parking lots some distance away from the beach. In fact, in the end, only some of the whale was even disintegrated, while most of it remained on the beach for the Oregon Highway Division workers to clear away. At the end of Lindman's story, he went on record stating it might be concluded that should a whale ever be washed ashore in Lane County again, those in charge will not only remember what to do, they'll certainly remember what not to do. Now, this story, despite happening in 1970, is really only as well known as it is today, thanks to writer Dave Barry, who brought it to widespread public attention in his Miami Herald column of May 20th, 1990, when he reported that he actually possessed footage of said event. The KATU footage eventually resurfaced on several websites, becoming a viral video and amassing a 315 million view count across various sites as of 2006. In 2020, residents of Florence themselves voted to name a new recreational area the Exploding Whale Memorial Park, complete with a plaque and everything. In fact, they even celebrate Exploding Whale Day annually at the park, and in 2024, the public was even invited to build an altar for said whale. You have to find the comical within the horrific, I think. Otherwise, the world just becomes too mind-numbingly gruesome. So I applaud these fine people for doing just that, and I'm not advocating for blowing up whales regardless of their current state of decomposition, but I am saying that we, as a species, seem capable of taking something so horrific and finding ways to cope with it. Does this contextualize our actions or justify them? That's always the question, and I'm not the one to ask for that answer. But I will say this. Maybe Nelson Muntz had a point.